So hello, welcome to some more Suzerain. So we have finished the main campaign. Here is Anton Reign, and now it is time to play as Rizia. We're going to play into the DLC, which I've never actually played before. Unlike when we played the base game, I have actually played, I played the base game 5 years ago, but I've never actually played the DLC. And also, is my video camera all of a sudden like messed up? Sorry, just like one second. I need to get like a new camera because like this auto resets itself for some reason, and I don't quite know why. There we go. So we're gonna be playing the DLC today. For what path we're going to go down, I'm honestly like not too sure. I think we'll just kind of go with the I go with the flow, so to speak. Because I don't really know what we can do. I know you can go to war for trying to like conquer Palais down here, so that's probably something we'll do. But we will get started right away. I know it's been a few weeks now since I've last streamed. I apologize for that. It's just been extremely hectic recently. Monarch, your reign and your abode, your scepter and the orb you hold, the ground in which you trod, the final sentence that I could not have time to read. Also, let me just... There's always like something going on with like the lighting, and it's better to be centrist at the start. Okay. You open your eyes to this realm. Becoming a king was never your choice, but it was my calling. From a young age, you knew you were no ordinary child. You are Romus Toras, grandson of Queen Rizia, ruler of all of Rizia, son of the Crown Prince Valero, Duke of Valenkiris. For most of the year, you lived with your father, Valero, and your mother, Estella, in a lavish palace atop the cliffs of Monkeys. Each summer, we can visit your mother's common-born family. So we were, a little bit more of a grounded king. Stayed with the queen, or you can go hunting. You know what? I think we'll be a little bit more grounded for now. Your grandparents were fisher people of modest means, and stayed with them helped you feel grounded. You know what? It felt good to have caring relatives. 1918, January 28th. When Queen Liza died, the whole country grieved, but the mourning could only last so long. There was a new king to crown. Right. You remember two things about King Valero's coronation. The whispers that Hugo, now the Duke of Valenkiris, was actually the rightful king, and a shout of protesters outside the palace gates. Alone with your father after the ceremony, I'll ask him about the rumors. Your father laughed and told you certain other royals had never approved of him marrying a commoner, but he and Estella were in love, and love conquered all. I'll believe my father. Life in Port Drezon was less exciting than you expected. You were tutored privately and rarely had contact with non-royals. At the palace, the closest person your age was Pavel, the groundkeeper's son. A quiet but friendly kid who knew about every plant in the gardens. You quickly became close friends. You were cut off from the world beyond the palace walls, but it gave you more time for self-reflection. During those formative years, you realized... Desired an easy life, one where so this is basically difficulty. So I think we'll just go with just standard for now. Your royal privilege came with unbelievable pressure, and balancing the two would be your life's work. When you came of age, your father invited you to start sitting in the royal council meetings, and we decided. I feel like we should join him. We're going to be king, so it makes sense. The council members took you under their wing, catching you up on the issues of the day. One of their main concerns was Pallas, a former part of Rizia that had long belonged to the Empire of Alagos. Now that the Empire had fallen, War Counselor General Thaddeus Cesaro was launching a military campaign to take the newly independent region back. I agreed that it was time to conquer the territory. As you continued to serve on the council, the Reclamation War dragged on. It seemed like an easy victory until your northern neighbor Lesbia got involved, sending weapons and financial aid to Palais. Protests against the war started sprouting up around the country. And we're going to crack down on the traitors here, of course. A few arrests were made, but the fire had been lit. Your next council meeting was interrupted by the announcement that the Navy had mutinied. Bloody clashes between pro and anti-monarchists were erupting across the country. The century of revolutions had reached Rizia at last. The head of palace security insisted that you be driven to a safe house outside of Port Drezon. As you left city limits, though, an unmarked car swerved in front of you, blocking the road. A trio of masked men with guns jumped out, quickly overpowered your guards, and forced you out of the vehicle. I'm going to try to fight them. Your captor subdued you after only the slightest struggle. You recognize one of the voices, Lucas Ezon, the Duke of Brenes and head of Rizia's third royal house. The hood went over your head, and then darkness. They held you captive for nearly a week. When rescue finally came, it was in the form of a man in a white, blue, and magenta flag on his fatigues. Valen's flag. At the palace, you pieced together what had happened. In desperation, your father had pleaded for the aid of Rizia's northern neighbor, Valen, to neutralize the uprising. But that help came at a price. Over the next year, the two nations worked out an agreement to transfer the control of the Port de Zelle and its surrounding region, home to the rich natural resources and millions of people. For the next 25 years, Zille would belong to Wayland. And you know what? My king should not be giving away territory to save my life. Let me just put it that way. Can I please have like less light? It's like too bright. The uprising had other consequences. The traitor Lucas Sazon was executed, and his pregnant wife sent into exile. As further punishment, Iza, the capital city of Brenes, and the Sazon's ancestral home was handed over to your family. Your uncle Hugo was sent to serve as his steward. In turn, you were to take his place as reigning Duke of Valencris. At your childhood home in Monix, you... You know what? I'll do my best to help the region rebuild. Valenkiris came to see you as a generous, capable leader. One day the king came for an unannounced visit. He brought with him a pale-skinned young woman with striking blue eyes. Hesitantly, she introduced herself as Lena Livingston, the sister of Queen Beatrice of Rumburg, and your wife-to-be. I'll kiss her hands. King Valero told you that he had no choice. With Valen descending into a civil war, Rizia needed a new ally. A partnership with the Kingdom of Rumburg, cemented with an arranged marriage, was in the best interest of both monarchies. Besides, he added, you would surely grow to love her. And you know what? I'll love my wife. You and Lena began having hours-long conversation about your royal upbringings, hopes, and your dreams. By the end, you lifted her veil. You knew it was true love. The years after your wedding and the birth of your daughter Vina were the happiest of your life. The only trouble was... You know what? That I couldn't stop myself from having a few affairs. It happens, okay? It happens. Oh, so I got to lock this. There we go. With Rumburg's help, Rizia economy bounced back to levels it hadn't seen since the glory days of Queen Lizia. Wealthy Rumburgians started moving to the cities. So did economic migrants from neighboring Morella and Dirdia, and Wejnik seeking asylum from the Civil War. You know what? We welcome new arrivals, but we're happy they're not settling in our duchy. Many of the foreigners ended up in the province of Brenes, where a nationalist movement called Suomina began demanding that the king put Rizia above all. The Duke of Iza, your uncle Hugo, turned a blind eye to Suomina's activities, while his teenage son Ricardus became a vocal supporter. Eventually, Ricardus, better known as Rico, approached you about speaking at one of the group's rallies. You know, I will attend, but I will not speak. Why does it take so long for the comments to show up? It's just like a delay. I can't really fix it. You watch as the organization's leaders bemoan the loss of Rizian territory, identity, and values. They stopped just short of blaming King Valero directly. A few years had passed. You slowly realized that the uprising had broken something in your father. He began neglecting his duties as he became increasingly preoccupied with threats, both real and imaginary. Outside of the country, he gained a new nickname, Vero the Frail. You found yourself under more and more pressure to make up for your father's shortcomings. Lena was patient and understanding, one of the many things that you loved about her. For her 10th birthday, Vina asked to go on a sailing trip with just the two of you. And you know what? I'll go happily along with my lovely daughter. In the middle of the Gulf of Valenkiris, the weather turned unexpectedly stormy. When the captain tried to turn the boat around, it was hit by a breaking wave and cracked in half. The Coast Guard got you and your daughter out on time, but by the time they pulled Lena out, she was barely breathing. They rushed her to the hospital. She died holding your hand. I got an achievement. Excellent. You were devastated. After the funeral, your mother Estella came to visit and found you hardly able to function. She probably moved in to help out with Vina. Hugo suggested that you turn to Burism, Rizia's official religion, to help you cope with your loss. The world seemed dull and meaningless. Meanwhile, the situation in the capital worsened. Rizia nationalists continued protesting their loss of Zil and the country's growing pluralism. Rumors spread that the anti-monarchist movement was growing once more. Several long operating gold mines were depleted at the expense of the kingdoms grew. Your father called Hugo back to Izia to keep an eye on the council. What do we want to do here? You know what? I reasoned the king had brought the troubles upon himself. Rizia's kind of stupid hard. One recommendation, there are 3 powerful houses. Keep them all happy to avoid a queue. I mean, fair enough. Even with Hugo advising him as Grand Vizier, King Valero seemed powerless to address the escalating tensions. Hugo suggested to the king that you couldn't be entrusted to with certain responsibilities. Upon agreement with the king and the royal council, you were granted the opportunity to be aid as the crown prince. And we chose to focus on... I mean, money is always good. Public relations could always be good. You know what? Let's go with enforcing internal security and passing royal decrees. Outsiders also took notice of the king's decline. One of them was Axel Reinhardt, the new ruler of the Grand Duchy of Palace. He sent you an invitation to visit him on 2 conditions. You go alone and without your father's knowledge. We decline. I don't deal with Palace. A few days later, you receive a letter from Palace. Duke Reinhardt expressed his disappointment that you couldn't meet him, and wrote that he hoped to reestablish relations between Palace and Rizia once you took the throne. I'll keep it to myself. A few days later, the king summoned you to the capital for a confrontation. He ordered his personal security force, the Golden Guard, to begin inspecting family members' mails. He accused me of betrayal. I exploded at him for being an incompetent ruler. As Vina grew into an intelligent, self-reliant young woman, your mother moved from Monquise back to the capital. She called you one night, her voice shaking. The king was dying. He had gone straight to bed after dinner. Your mother went to check in on him later. She found him comatose in the bedroom. The doctors suspect a heart attack. I'll see my father. Your father looked pale as a ghost. It took all of his efforts to speak. In a hoarse whisper, he warned you not to follow in his footsteps. Your reign would be a fresh start for the House of Toras, a new chance to take back the lands that were lost. He closed his eyes. Only after his funeral, gathered at the palace with your mother and daughter, did the realization begin to dawn on you. From the day that you were born, your entire life had been leading to this moment. Now it is finally here. Chapter 1, King Romus. Now, I do believe the DLC is shorter than the base game. I don't believe we'll be here for like 45 episodes like we were last time. Okay, what hair do we want? We gotta do some customization. For me, it was actually longer. The wavy. I mean, I feel like we've got to have the crown, right? You gotta have the crown. For our facial hair, I mean, a mustache? The Rizian. Hell yeah. For my attire, Toras Royal Ceremonial. I mean, we've got to go with, do we go with Toras Royal? Or do we go with just regular defaults? I'm kind of feeling default, it matches with the crown a little bit more. I think we'll just go default here. For our background, I mean gold, because we're the king, of course. And for accessories, I think we're good. I think this is going to be our king. And I am ready. As King Romus Toras, you have extensive power to enact and shape the course of the Golden Kingdom. By choosing different focus options, you can gain different strategic advantages. Opting for absolutism would solidify monarchic traditions within House Toras, while considering reform aligns with House Zazon and the Rizian's People Party, signaling a shift towards wider civic participation and resource distribution. Conversely, the status quo upholds the current balance of power and provincial autonomy. I think we can go... You know, let's become like an absolute monarch. I think that seems like it could be fun. Our economic strategy. A focus on strengthening our resource economy involves leveraging natural assets and safeguarding long-term energy commitments. Alternatively, diversifying the economy beyond resource reliance aims for a balanced financial landscape, mitigating over-reliance risk. Strengthens, we get 2 energy, 2 budget, or more authority. So right now we have 9 authority. We gain money per turn. I do like this, by the way. I think like in the base game, you should also just passively earn money. As well. That's not just because I want bankrupt. I mean, energy seems like it's probably going to be useful. So I guess we'll go with energy, just because I don't really know what we're wanting to choose here. Foreign affairs. The kingdom faces new diplomatic choices. Interventionism encourages active military involvement, while appeasement aims to strengthen ties with Valen and Rumberg's monarchy. Alternatively, you can choose a third way, forming regional alliances with Dirdia, Palace, Morella to avoid major... okay, no. We're going to go interventionism, of course. As King Romus Toras, you have extensive power, yada, yada, yada. So you go with the Air Force, Army, or the Navy. A shift in focus of the Rizian Royal Air Force could position us for potential area superiority. By exploring advanced pilot training and considering an expansion of our bomber fleet, we might enhance our capabilities for precision strikes and extend our bombing operational reach. I mean, an Air Force usually is pretty good. I mean, it's better for, like, modern war, right? It's like having a good Air Force. And what are you? So you're -2 budget, -1 airstrike cooldown, -1 air support, and 1 extra paratrooper. Diverting resources towards the army expands our ground operations with advanced vehicles, artillery, and infantry equipment. Also training additional mountaineering division. The cost 2, we get more manpower, more equipment, and a mountaineering division. Or the Navy. We're not choosing the Navy. That'd be just embarrassing. So we go with the Air Force, or we go with the Army? I'm leaning towards Air Force. I feel like that's probably going to be better for us. Because I don't imagine Palace has like a great Air Force themselves. So I'm going to go with the Air Force. They do a super great Air Force, and I think we need a good Air Force. The angelic sounding voice of the boys' choir echoed through the grand halls of Palace Resnia. To most Rizians, it was the grandest room in the grandest building in the entire country. To me, it was just home. I remember wandering between the mosaic tiled columns as a bored teenager, goofing off with Pabel in the upper gallery as my father met with foreign dignitaries. And Pabel is the old groundkeeper, right? He's the head butler now. Excellent. And of course, this is where I married Lena. I sat upright in the Silica Orchia, the gold-plated wooden throne in which all monarchs of Rizia were coronated. The hall before me was filled with nobles, politicians, business magnates, and even movie stars. The television crew moves up and down the aisles, broadcasting the ceremony to the Rizian public for the first time. My mother was sitting in the front row next to Uncle Hugo. Tradition dictated that in the absence of a queen or king consort, the seat next to me would be filled by the successor to the throne. Vinna plucked at a straight thread in her gown. How are you feeling, father? Okay. I'm ready for the next chapter. My daughter smiled. Me too. I wish mother was the one sitting here, though. The final note of the coronation hymn, By His Sword I Live, rang out. An expectant silence filled the halls. It was broken by the sound of shuffling footsteps. The cameras followed Grand Viceman Sal Ignatius as he walked slowly down the central aisle, bearing a velvet cushion. He placed it in front of me. It was the Taurus crown, a black onyx orb, and a scroll containing the words of the royal oath. I will recite the oath. I hereby pledge myself in service of the great nation of Rizia and its people. I promise to guide my country with a steadfast hand, to uphold the laws of this land under Saint Verdic's watchful eye, to wield the sword of justice and the shield of mercy in equal measure. All of this I shall do until the day I die. I'll take the orb. It was inlaid with a trio of diamonds, representation of the 3 royal houses of Rizia, Toras, Ezero, and Sazon. I took the crown. I gazed at Taurus' crown. Forged my family took the throne almost 150 years ago. It was made of pure gold, adorned with 2 twisting spires resembling bull's horns. I look at my, I caught my mother's eye. She gave me a conspiratorial wink. May Saint Virik fill you with his Holy Spirit on this day, as he did your ancestors before you. With trembling hands, Grand Wise Man Ignatius lifted the crown off the cushion. I could spot a gray hair still clinging to its inner rim, my father's. May you keep the promises that you have made before God and your people. The crown came down on my head. Its heaviness surprised me. By the divine power vested in me, I proclaim you the sovereign king of Rizia. Arise, King Romus. I stood up. The choir broke into On Shores of Gold, the Rizian national anthem. According to royal tradition, this was my signal to march down the aisle and up to the palace balcony to greet the public. I decided to proceed without making a speech. Everyone in the crowd bowed their heads as Vina and I made our way down the aisle. I passed my cousin Rico in the second row. He kept his head down and didn't acknowledge me. As we kept walking, I recognized various other members of Rizia's 3 royal houses, as well as the monarchs from distant kingdoms. The entire back row was reserved for the Rumburgian royal family and their entourage. I could feel my sister-in-law Beatrice's eyes upon me. We reached the end of the hall, where a spiral staircase led to the palace balcony. Come on, Vina. Let's greet your future subjects. My daughter beamed and put her arm through mine. We walked up and up the stairs until we came to a door. I stepped out onto the balcony. The sunlight was so dazzling it almost blinded me. When my eyes adjusted, I regarded the scene below me. Thousands and thousands of people were packed onto the palace grounds, some waving a Rizian flag, other House Taurus' banner. Just beyond them at the gates, the police easily held back a small pocket of protesters. I paid little attention to them. I focused on the noise of the crowd. An overwhelming roar of gradually cohorted into a single chant. Talites axa rege novus. All hail the new king. I like Vina. I tried to take all the dialogue options to make her smile. Which war crimes do you plan to commit? I mean, as many as we possibly can, I think makes sense.